We've got some spicy matchups in the ACC this weekend. Which of them is going to teach us the most about the conference?
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcast. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We're going to talk about some of the most important matchups in the ACC this weekend on this episode. What's going to teach us the most about who might be able to win this conference. I do want to talk about who we believe have been the top 5 quarterbacks in the ACC so far, and if anyone can creep in later on in the season. But I'm Alex Dono from Locked On Canes, alongside Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. And Kenton, I'm certainly looking at the Wolfpack's matchup this weekend. Vegas doesn't give them much of a chance. I'd love to see them make this interesting. So between NC State on the road at number 21 Clemson at noon on Saturday, and Georgia Tech on the road at number 19 Louisville at 3:30 p.m. on Saturday, which one of those two matchups is going to teach us more about this conference this week?
See, Locked On ACC fans, y'all thought Candace liked to make fun of me. Y'all thought that Candace liked to poke fun and make jokes about me. But Dono, he's the worst type of jokester. He's the jokester that does it with a straight face. He's the guy that shows up as a whole nother person and says, "What do you mean, Dwight? I'm definitely Jim. I'm Jim. Yeah, I'm Jim. What's the problem here?" I am telling you right now, if NC State and Clemson teaches us anything, if it teaches us a damn thing about this conference, congratulations. They're lighting the bell tower red in Raleigh. They are running on Western Boulevard. They're going crazy on Hillsborough Street because that has been an upset of the century in CJ Bailey's first start. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
You said the spread was how much now?
20.5.
20 and a half.
A lot of points.
What the hell are we going to learn from a potential blowout, Dono? What are we going to learn from something that the Sharps are saying? Hey, listen, this one's over before it even starts.
Well, here's the thing, though. I'm looking at this as much of a measuring stick for Clemson as I am for NC State because, okay, week 1 against Georgia, and I know Georgia's really good, but Clemson's offense was completely ineffective, right? And then they take on, a group of 5 opponent in Appalachian State. But Appalachian State has this amazing reputation because they pulled off big upsets before. So it's like anytime a big program beats Appalachian State, the reaction is, oh, what? They beat Appalachian State? That's awesome. They usually upset it. It's happened like twice, but they've got this reputation of upsetting everybody. And Clemson scored 66 points in that game. Cade Klubnik, who, neither of us are very high on, threw for 5 touchdowns and 358 yards in that game. So I want to look at this and say, okay, is Clemson's offense, is it closer to the one that almost got shut out against Georgia, or is it closer to the one that racked up 66 points against a group of 5 opponent? Like that to me is, I know you think I'm trolling you when I bring up this game, but I'm really not. Like I want to see, and I know NC State's their defense has underperformed so far this year, as has their offense, but I want to see if Clemson can do anywhere close to a second time what they did before their bye week against Appalachian State.
And here's the thing, right? I definitely understand where you're going with that. But Georgia Tech and Louisville actually will answer questions because both of those teams have a lot of questions out there, right?
Yeah.
NC State right now, offensively, they got the Dick Vermeil thing going. When he said, we can't stop him from scoring and we can't score. Other than that, we're just fine, right? That's what NC State's offense has going. They struggle to run the ball. They struggle to find continuity in the passing game. But other than that, they're perfectly fine. And don't get me wrong. I'd be remiss if I didn't say NC State has had pass catchers running open all year. They have had guys getting butt naked open. And I'm telling you, I'm sitting here like, it's mind-blowing because it's almost the complete 180 of last year where your wide receivers, I mean, they were stuck to guys like glue. Every defensive back that was near him, you would assume they go into the bathroom to shake it for him. And so you sit here and you say the wide receivers are getting open now, but now our quarterbacks can't stay upright. Now our quarterbacks can't hit stick routes. Now it's basic concepts that we just can't do. So Georgia Tech and Louisville, on the other hand, how does Louisville perform against a Power 5 team? Right. How does Georgia Tech look against the bounce back from Syracuse? Are they the real deal? Which is the real Syracuse? And is Florida State just that bad? Because let's be honest, if you beat Florida State and then you go out there and lay an egg in your first 2 conference games, that makes Florida State look even worse than they already do. So, this thing to me, Georgia Tech, Louisville actually answers questions amongst 2 teams that are supposed to be close, amongst 2 teams that, and granted, that's a double-digit line as well, but that's a double-digit line that a lot of people are looking at and saying, it's why is it a double-digit line? This is a pick 'em more so than anything else. So, I definitely 1,000% feel like Georgia Tech, Louisville will answer more questions. But, hey, I'd be glad to be wrong about this one. I'd be glad to find out that NC State and Clemson are answering a lot of questions for.
Yeah, I mean, you're right to bring up the Louisville Georgia Tech game, because I also want to see how for real Tyler Shuck is, because he's already, and again, they've played 2 lesser opponents. They've only played 2 games because they had a bye week as well. But so far, Tyler Shuck looks so much better than Jack Plummer did last year. And Louisville looks like a better team so far than they did a year ago. So is that the type of mirage that you could create when you're taking on lesser opposition? Is that going to hold up, like you said, when you're in ACC play? And of course, Tyler Shuck has Brom, the quarterback whisperer, as his head coach, who tends to bring out the best at players who play that position. And then at the same time, like with Georgia Tech, we're certainly not sleeping on Haynes King. I mean, Haynes King has been one of the best passers in the conference so far. He's got, I believe, a 6-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and he's also got mobility, Kenton, and that's another angle where Georgia Tech may be able to, their offense may be more effective against Louisville on the road than people think, because they've got a quarterback who can do a lot of different things and a good running game overall.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, when I look at that Georgia Tech team, I'm asking myself, can you all be consistent? That's my biggest question, because Georgia Tech, when they're rolling at their highest clip, they look like they can play with anybody. And I'm not even talking about just the game against Florida State. I mean, in general, when you think about who Georgia Tech is, defensively, they've had a massive turnaround from last year. Are they perfect? No. But are they much better at stopping the run than they were last year? Absolutely. And granted, you can't go nowhere but up from the bottom, but they have. They have risen in that regard. Yeah. Now they need to shore up some things in that secondary, but either way you cut it and slice it, Georgia Tech is looking like a potential dark horse contender that many people thought other teams would be. And so it'll be interesting. Like you said, this game will answer questions, because let's be honest, is there any result to this game that doesn't leave you walking away a little differently than you did before?
No, it's a great point. That's a great point. Whereas in the other game there is. Yeah.
And NC State Clemson, if Clemson goes out there and drops them, we're like, yeah, it's pretty much what we figured. Because again, somebody on Twitter said nobody changes their opinion faster than you can. And well, that's true, because I do this thing called ingest new information. And I'm not so rigid that I see something and I say, that stove is probably hot. And then I turn that stove on and I leave it on for an hour and I'm like, wait a minute, this stove is cool to the touch. Maybe this stove is cool. That's just me. And I believe that there are many more answers to definitively be had from the Georgia Tech Louisville game, because again, there are many outcomes that are like, we didn't learn anything about State or Clemson. But there's only a couple that's like, oh, hold on now. But in Georgia Tech and Louisville, either way this goes, either way you cut or slice it, we'll walk away doing a little neck beard talk, doing a little, interesting. Very interesting there.
Well, now there's a couple of non-conference games that I think might teach us a little bit about the ACC. But then there's another conference game. We'll talk about this when we come back. Is Cal at Florida State? Is that going to teach us anything? It might. It just might. We'll explain. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. My friends, we are only getting started with FanDuel. We've been winning money all football season. The NFL is in full swing now, college football. We love these ACC matchups. And yeah, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel here on the Locked On Network, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Right now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. We're also proudly brought to you by Game Time. I love this app because they've got the best features and they've got the best prices, especially last minute. Like it works every time. The long and procrastination is not always a great thing in certain areas of your life, but at Game Time, the longer you wait, the better the prices get. They get lower before the event even starts, which is incredible. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Guys, I love the all-in pricing feature, which shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. It's a game changer. I love the seat views you get, panoramic views from your seat in the app before you buy. Folks, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, make sure you check out our other shows. Kenton does an awesome job on Locked On Wolfpack. I host Locked On Canes. We have you covered on everything, NC State and Miami Hurricanes. Kenton, I know we've been piling on Florida State a lot this season, but they have another conference matchup coming up, 7 p.m. in Tallahassee on Saturday night. Florida State Seminoles are favored by 2 points against the visitors from Cal, despite the fact that 2 weeks ago, Cal went into Auburn as big underdogs and outplayed and upset an Auburn team that was pretty high on themselves at that point, whereas Florida State is 0-3. I feel like the wrong team is favored here, but at the same time, I do think we have some things to learn in this one because is Florida State going to continue to spiral or are they going to get some kind of an emotional response? That's important. Are they going to be playing for pride at home or are they already acting like their season's over? And then for Cal, an opportunity for them to get, I know Florida State's down, but this would still be a signature win for them. Their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, has been playing so well, taking care of the football. Their defense has been lights out so far this season. So I am intrigued by this game. You're looking sleepy hearing me talking about this game. Are you all right?
No, this isn't sleepy. This is not sleepy. This is the look that my mother would give when she was thoroughly disappointed in something I was saying. And let me tell you why.
What do I do?
Oh, no, it's not you. It's not you. It's the Sharps. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why? Now, Donald, the first game of the year was in Dublin, Ireland. Apparently only one team had to travel there. Georgia Tech, those are like the MIT of the South type of people. They built a portal.
Yeah, I mean, their flight was like an hour shorter. So Florida State had jet lag. They didn't.
They didn't. Okay, so that's the first game excuse. They were favored in that one. Right or wrong, Donald?
They were favored by double digits in that one.
Okay, they favored in double digits. Okay. And then there's no place like home. There's nothing like that home cooking. Those greens from mama, grandma's oxtails, those ribs from auntie. There's nothing like it. They went home. They got some home cooking. They had Boston College coming in, a quarterback that can't throw according to Jackson Holzer, and a head coach that I can't stand. I'm going to be honest about that. I don't believe in him. I can't stand him. And so they were favored by double digits in that one too, weren't they, Donald?
Yes, they were. Yeah.
How'd that game turn out for them?
Not well for Florida State, pretty good for Boston College.
So the home cooking didn't help.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then we go forward. We one more again. We give, hey, listen, we get it. Those first couple of weeks, it was rough. Don't worry about it. We even gave you a little money game in here. You paid Memphis. Memphis wouldn't come here no other way. That's a group of 5 team. The Power 4, a little too tough on them. A little too tough. You just don't have the money. That's why you're suing. You just need more money, and you can beat those financial powerhouses that beat you. And then you got Memphis coming through. Finally, somebody that's on your level financially, right? Somebody that you're comparable to financially.
Oh, of course.
You got a shot. Your favorite there as well. It's at home as well, right? Mama's
6.5 points. They were favored.
Mama's cooking didn't work, so this time you got your old ladies cooking. You got your girlfriend's cooking. She did a little new thing. You know what I mean? She do it a new way. She found a way to make it a little healthier, a little more. It's not quite a vegan option, but it's a little more healthy for you. How'd that work out, Donald?
Not well. They lost. They scored 12 points and they lost.
How the hell do you keep favoring this team? Where is it coming from? I'm not, Donald, these odds don't mean disappointment in you. These odds are disappointment in Vegas. But you know what? Actually, let me take away disappointment in Vegas. I'm not a betting man. But what I will tell you is this. Sometimes Vegas has those moments where they're just begging to give you some money. And right now, Vegas is saying, please, the houses want to know. Take some. Take some, please. I don't got Florida State to cover. I don't got Florida State to win. I don't think they have the countenance to get up off the mat and bounce back. I think that's a team that's going to roll over and show their stomach now that things are hard for them.
Here's what you want. You want Cal money line. You can get plus 108 odds on that at FanDuel. So if you bet $100, they're going to give you your money back plus an extra 108 if Cal wins the game outright. I think that's what you're looking at for this week.
Give me Cal on that money line, baby. Give me Cal on that money line right now.
So a couple of non-conference games that are going to be interesting. Miami, who I cover, they're off to a fast start. But I'm not sleeping on USF, South Florida, who they're playing on the road this weekend. That's a team that 2 weeks ago really challenged Alabama until the fourth quarter. The game didn't look as close as it really was. It looked like a blowout for Bama. They had a few late touchdowns that kind of piled it on in the fourth quarter. And South Florida, they run a very fast-paced offense, no huddle, and they've got a top 10 rushing attack in the country. So I'm going to be interested to see, Miami, who's blown everybody out, including Florida, on the road to start the season. And, Cam Ward is currently the Heisman favorite. I think USF will probably end up being an even bigger challenge than Florida was. So I think we're going to learn a lot about Miami, because Miami's become the ACC front runner, but they haven't opened conference play yet. And USF might be the toughest challenge that they face so far. And then I'm going to also say, North Carolina is 10.5 point favorites against James Madison. We've been talking with Isaac Shade about this. You're going to hear Isaac talk about this on the squad episode as well tomorrow, that, North Carolina, they tend to struggle against Sunbelt opposition, and James Madison's pretty good. They might be able to challenge UNC despite the Tar Heels being favored by 10.5 points.
Okay, so let's go in sequential order here. In terms of what we're looking at with USF and Miami, you say don't sleep on it. I'm taking it now. I love me some Byron Brown. That's the quarterback for USF. Yeah. He's a Raleigh guy. Let me tell you something. I rarely ever tell guys, I rarely ever say, hey, a head coach of a team needs to recruit this guy. I was 1,000% like, Norm, whatever you got to do to go get that man, go get him. Go get him, because he's a certified stud. But with that being said, I just think that they lack the versatility to win that game. Defensively, they're extremely tough. They shut down run games, all that good stuff. They'll make it hard on you for a while. They don't have the depth to keep up with Florida late. Right. And the other thing is, again, you need to pass the ball. You're not going to be good enough to push push Miami around up front in terms of getting what you want out of that running game. You need to find a way to pass the ball. I just don't think they got the guys on the outside to do it right now.
That's a good point, because I gave them the good stat, which is their USF is 8th in rushing offense, but they're 120th in passing offense. So there's, it paints the picture of a one-dimensional team.
Exactly. Again, love me some Byron Brown. I think he's going to be a star in the future. If he stays there, I think the USF they got their QB1 for the next 3 years or so. But with that being said, again, Miami is Miami is Miami. You got to stop Cam Ward all game. You got to stop Martinez all game. You got to stop Restrepo all game. You got to stop so many weapons all game. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to do that. UNC James Madison is very interesting because James Madison plays with a tough countenance. They play with an attitude. They play with an edge. They're like, you know what? You may have better athletes than us, but we're going to beat you up. You're going to need that ice tub after the game. They're very physical, amazing at stopping the run. One of the best run stuffing teams in the nation over the past 3 years or so. With that being said, that's UNC's strength. Omarion Hampton is a one-of-one guy. He's a guy you do not see him in the Sun Belt Conference. They're just ain't. And to be honest, you don't see one of him nowhere else in the damn country. That's how good that young man is. So with that in mind, I really am intrigued to see the matchup of James Madison's run defense against North Carolina's running game, because passing game wise, I think North Carolina has theirs there, but they also have a third string quarterback that's going to start. So you've got a lot of dynamics going on there that make that line only being 10.5 make a lot of sense.
All right. Well, when we come back, are these the top 5 quarterbacks in the ACC so far, and are we leaving anybody out? You want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Guys, I hope you have checked out Roy, or you will check it out, because this is incredible. Have you heard about Roy? It stands for Return on You, and it's a new platform that lets you, the fans, get involved in NIL like never before by making contributions directly to your favorite athletes. By supporting players directly, you can help shape rosters, retain talent, and keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal. As you all know, NIL has changed the game for athletes. Roy changes the NIL game for fans. Directly support players. Roy allows fans to directly back their favorite college athletes. With Roy, fans can play a key role in shaping the future of their favorite teams, while athletes maximize their name, image, and likeness potential. Guys, you can engage with athletes on their NIL journey. Fans not only support them financially, but they also become part of their name, image, and likeness journey, helping athletes succeed both on and off the field. Download Roy for iOS or Android and enter referral code Locked On, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Just visit joinroy.com for additional details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. Check it out. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your pods. We're free on YouTube. Smash that thumbs up button if you're watching us on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So maybe this is in no particular order, Kenton, but these are my top 5 quarterbacks in the ACC so far. Cam Ward at Miami has had the dazzle, and he's had the stats: over 1,000 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, so just 1 interception so far. So he's in there for sure. Ward at Miami. I have been super captivated by Eli Holstein at Pitt. We've talked about him a lot, and it's like you got to put Holstein in the top 5 so far, because he's getting all these weekly honors, Kenton. He's been ACC Rookie of the Week twice. He's been ACC Quarterback of the Week flat out once already, and only 3 games played. And Holstein, he played with all the poise of a senior in that victory in the backyard brawl. Captain Cool, 100%. Haynes King, I'm putting Haynes King in the top 5. I think he's cut down the turnovers so far, of course, which was, an issue for him last year. Now Tyler Shuck and Kyle McCord are the other ones that I'm putting in the top 5. Shuck at Louisville, and as we talked about, they've only played 2 games. They haven't faced any huge tests yet, but Shuck has been playing really well. And so is McCord, and the victory that Syracuse got against Georgia Tech was impressive. He's been ACC Quarterback of the Week before within the first 3 weeks as well. So that's my top 5 so far. Other ACC quarterbacks that have been putting up big stats so far, Hank Bachmeier at Wake has put up big numbers. Anthony Calandria at Virginia has been a top 5 passer so far in the ACC. Malik Murphy at Duke has put up the sixth most passing yards so far. You know, another one I could have put in this top 5. Maybe I should have. Maybe the guy that I'm leaving out here is Fernando Mendoza at Cal. I probably should have given him more consideration. What do you think?
You know, I think there is multiple guys who have played very well early. Thomas Castellanos being one of them as well. Another guy
Yeah.
that he belongs in this conversation as well. I will say this: your top 5 is very respectable because all those young men have led their teams to victories. That's just an objective truth. And beyond that, all of those guys have been consistent. You have not been left with a ton of questions about, man, how are they going to be with this guy at quarterback? All of these teams may have other things to figure out. For the most part of your top 5, I don't think one of those teams is like, oh, what are we going to do about quarterback?
I want to say all my top 5 except for Haynes King. The other 4 are undefeated so far.
Yeah, and that's, again, all of those teams have questions that they'll answer later on down the road, or there are things about them. For example, like Shuck, you say the health situation, and also you ain't played nobody yet. That's just a objective truth there. But you look at these guys and you say all of them have done what they needed to do for their teams in separate but kind of close to equal ways, right? Cam Ward has been Mr. Incredible. He's been everything to that team. He's been a guy that's phenomenal when he pulls the ball down and runs. He's been a guy that's made good decisions and been very protective of the ball. Haynes King, same thing. He's been a guy who, like you said, the turnovers way down. The turnover-worthy plays way down. He plays within himself. He knows when to throw it away, when to take a sack, all those types of things. Holstein, what can we say about this young buck here? I mean, he just looks like he's been in this thing for 4 or 5 years. Hey, we're down double digits against a fellow Power 14. Calm. It's calm, everybody. Be calm. You know, I'm going to move around in the pocket and make something happen. A lot like that little piece of dust that was just a paid actor right here. This little tough time will pass. And it surely did for him. So you look at him and you say special things. But again, all of these guys all have their arguments for, hey, I belong in this conversation because, again, there's been a lot of good quarterback play in ACC. When you and I thought that this was going to be a running backs league, that the running backs are taking over. Yeah. The running backs are going to be toting them out this year, and it hasn't necessarily happened. What type of world are we looking at where Cal is undefeated and the story is Mendoza and not Op?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
And by the way, Damian Martinez at Miami, he's not done as much through 3 games as I expected. So it's like, and not that Cam Ward being the headliner, there's nothing unsurprising about that. But right. I thought it'd be more of a co-headliner between Ward and Martinez, and it's been the Cam Ward show.
Yeah, and you know, there's many ways that could have happened, and I think one of the biggest things is when you know that you've got a physical runner on your hands, why run him a lot if you don't have to? Because he's going to take some lumps, he's going to take some thumps, he's going to take some bruises all throughout the season. So there's no reason to necessarily put him in position to take those big hits and take a lot of them early in the season if you don't have to. Which, do you need him against FAMU? Do you need him to rush for 150 against Florida? Do you need him against Ball State? I'd say no.
No, it's been good. So we'll see which quarterbacks step up this week. I always like to track who the players of the week are, and it's been the Eli Holstein show so far, and with a little Cam Ward and Kyle McCord mixed into that. A huge shout out and thank you guys for making Locked On ACC your first listen, your first watch today. Make sure you check out Kenton and Grayson on Locked On Wolfpack. Make sure you check me out as well on Locked On Canes, and we'll talk to you guys again next time. We'll get the squad together on Thursday for another episode of Locked On ACC, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.